Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om, Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om, Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om, Shri Ram Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om, Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om, Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Jagannath Puri. For the sake of those who are attending today, we were just going through the 40 boats, nearly 40 boats. Which were displayed at the time of centenary, Sannyas centenary in December last. It was the journey of Papa from Mangalore to Mangalore. In 1922, he left everything, so we will just go to that first one. The first one. First one, correct. First one. Correct. Papa Swami Ramdas's first long journey as a mendicant. Vittal Rao, as beloved Papa Swami Ramdas was known before embracing sannyas, was struggling in the whirlpool of worldly life until he was lifted up by the indwelling infinite power. He felt that he was called by the divine to leave his cocooned life of severe limits and fling himself into the vast open sky of limitless infinity. This was his first long journey as a mendicant, traversing from the deep south to the far north, entirely relying on the indwelling reality alone, every day, every step, every breath. We keep on going through the same thing because it was because of the transition that took place in Vittal Rao on 27th December or 28th that we are all sitting here. Vittal Rao to Swami Ramdas. Though everything is designed by Lord, still from the Vyavaharik angle we say 27th December 1922 happens to be the instrumental cause when he left everything. In the next one also he put. Papa Swami Ramdas's endless struggles, next one. No. In his mundane life, resulting in utter helplessness, led his advent into the world as a mendicant. He heard the inner voice of God. When he prayed, he heard the inner voice. And he named it as Great Void. Many of you might remember. He heard the inner voice of God. It was like a plank thrown towards a man struggling for very life in the stormy waves of a raging sea. On 27th December 1922, at 5 o'clock in the morning, he left Mangalore by train, by bidding farewell to a world for which he had lost all attraction and in which he could not find nothing to call his own. Body, mind, soul, all were laid at the feet of God. So that is why we are all sitting here. So when God wanted this transformation to take place, not only in every one of our life, we can't say we have been transformed, at least we have been awakened. We have been awakened to the truth that God is within. All these were possible only because he chose Vittal Rao to free himself from the bondages. One person's transformation, it has been instrumental now in touching and awakening the presence of God in innumerable devotees all over the world. That is why we keep on remembering it as a mark of our gratitude. Why we have been drawn, how Anandashram was set up, how we got a Puja Mataji, how we got Puja Swamiji, how so many activities centered or initiated by Anandashram started reaching out to many segments of the society. All those things were possible because the transformation took place on 27th December. Till such time, though so many things were taking place in his mind, he was still continuing as Vittal Rao. But the moment he came out and left Mangalore, then a series of things God made him to go through. 28th, on 28th, we calculate that 28th, 27th December, he left in 5 o'clock in the morning. Evening, he reached E Road. He was in the station till midnight. So 27th midnight, he was taken by another person to Trichy. Early morning, when he reached Trichy, he walked. Huh? Huh?
No, they are talking about themselves. Kindly switch off the audios. Please mute the audio.
Is that okay? So that is why lot of importance is given for the 27th December. Every spiritual aspirant needs a spiritual preceptor to awaken. This is very important. That is why we are going through In Quest of God again and again and again and again. Because had that not taken place, this ashram would not have come into being. For the past 92 years, this ashram, previously a small ashram in Kasargod. All these things were there only because of the transformation that took place in the life of Vittal Rao. For the sake of all of us, for the innumerable spiritual aspirants and devotees all over the world. That is why we are going through it again and again and again. So, a seeker's likes and dislikes, favors and prejudices set up a thick wall on his path. He should fling himself into the infinite life. That means the sense of individuality, which is a product of likes and dislikes, rights and wrongs, favors and prejudices, preferences, priorities, set up a thick wall on his path. Make him oblivious of the indwelling God. So he has to himself fling himself into the infinite. He has to take the leap from the individual to the cosmic. Then yesterday we have been going through, I think we reached Puri.
Himalayas. We came up to Himalayas.
Calcutta is over.
60.
Tarakeshwar. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We will go back from Jagannath Puri again. 15. Reaching the ancient seaside temple frequented by millions of fervent pilgrims, Papa felt a deep emotional connect. Papa's devotion to the divine knows no bounds, both in his abstract, infinite nirguna aspect and his local, personalized, saguna aspect. Devotion means loving remembrance of God. Bereft of devotion, life is dry and tasteless. Devotion sweetens life and frees it from the bond of ignorance. Though Papa has been dwelling on the indwelling and all-pervading reality which is beyond name and form, he equally gave importance for the worship of any form, deities. Because the relationship between a devotee and a Bhagavan, Bhakta and Bhagavan, it is always sweet. Suppose we start identifying the Atman, Brahman, it may be dry. Only for a selected few they may be able to derive the fullest benefit. For others it may be an intellectual exercise, hardly giving any sweetness, by and large. Not that all, by and large. So probably in order to show that even a deity worship is equally valid, provided we don't localize, we don't limit the all-pervading reality to that form. So in Puri, as you all know, millions of people go there and they have the darshan. So Papa was also led to the temple, and there the crowd was so big that he thought we will not be able to have the darshan of the deity. Suddenly somebody comes and takes him to the front, and he had the full darshan. At that time Papa had written in an ecstatic mood. He says, Ramdas had now become unconscious of his body and plunged into communion with the Almighty Ram. Ramdas had now become unconscious of his body and plunged into communion with the Almighty Ram. In about 5 minutes, he was standing before the big idol of Jagannath. So All glory to thee. All along while going around, he was immersed in a strange ecstasy, tears flowing down profusely from his eyes. What joy indescribable! One moment of that existence outweighs all the pleasures of the world. So, by these explanations, he says how the Almighty Lord of the universe, who is nameless and formless, as, also does give the devotee the same joy through a form. This is very important. So never be belittle the importance of idol worship. The only thing is, Papa wanted all of us to understand that we should not stop there. Lord Jagannath is in the minds of everybody. That is why he is called Lord Jagannath. Jagannath is Nath of the Jagat. So he is not only in Puri, he is also everywhere. But suppose we say he is everywhere, the devotion will not well up. So that is why a form, certain rituals, so many things are done so that the devotional aspect is kindled in us and we get the joy of it. So that is why Papa specifically mentioned communion with Ram. Ram is nameless, formless. No? So this was instrumental in making communion with him. So idol worship or worship of a form is valid provided we have the right relationship. Next, Kolkata and Dakshineshwar. Here also he had the ecstatic experience when he saw the room once occupied by Bhagavan Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. See, he rolled there. And that moment, inexplicable. He had explained he then laid himself flat on the floor of the room and began to roll all over the place, feeling all the while an inexpressible ecstasy of bliss. O Ram, the floor was blessed by the tread of the sacred feet of that holy man. About half an hour passed thus, and he was still rolling on the floor, his face beaming with a strange light of infinite joy. So here also he points out the role of saints, spiritual preceptors in a sadhaka's life. Because they give us, it's not philosophy. Their life is placed before us. Every time when we go through their life and inspiring life and teachings, something happens in us. We get touched. So that's why he says, butter comes after churning. Similarly, after struggle comes repose. Darkest night is succeeded by the bright day. Do not despair. Look within for the dawn of a divine light, freedom. For this satsang is beneficial. So whenever we are made to pass through various ups and downs, so many trying situations, which the mind labels it as adverse, the satsang, not merely the darshan, they are teachings. When we remember them, their teachings come to us. Through their teachings, we get a cushioning to absorb any such shocks which he makes us to pass through. Tarakeshwar. Throughout his journey, he would meet people from all walks of life, from those who followed the rules in letter and spirit, to those who live precariously without much care about rules and conventions. For him, nobody is to be feared or frowned upon, and no deed was considered as weird or unbecoming. Spiritual progress does not mean development only in one aspect of a human being. His emotional, intellectual, and dynamic nature should evolve simultaneously. In every board you will find an interesting quotation of Papa. So, in order to clear that spirituality or spiritual life does not diverges from the common run of life. He makes it very clear. The spiritual progress does not mean development of only one aspect. When we try to become conscious of the living presence of the Almighty within, all our other aspects also get, because we feel Him also in different in various manifestations. So our relationship with the manifestation also changes. And whatever He prompts us to do for the sake of others, for the sake of our own unfoldment, which we call it as creativity, that also has to be thought of. So spiritual progress does not mean retiring to a cave, abstaining ourselves from all our activities. Papa's interpretation is totally different. You become dynamic, active in every field. Gaya, Kashi, and Ayodhya. As a traveler without an itinerary, Papa often faced unsympathetic situations, but he was never desperate nor frustrated. Instead, he found them as God-given tests to remain calm and unruffled. Like gold being melted and hammered repeatedly to make fine jewelry, these trying moments made him a finer being who is in tune with the grand designer. Man's eyes are open to the transitory nature of the world through the bitter experiences which he gains in the course of life. When we started thinking about the source of all our sources, at least intellectually we understand that it is God who gave us this human birth. And He chose our parents to become the instrumental cause. Bijam Mam Sarvabhutanam. I am the eternal seed of all beings. So when He sent us, it is His design. Our life is His design. So whenever, because of our previous karma, we have to pass through so many things. But out of His unbounded love towards us, He also facilitates to have satsang and contact of a spiritual preceptor who touches and awakens in us. And then who makes us understand that don't be carried away by the downs, don't be carried away by the so-called labeled adverse circumstances. They are all tests meted out onto you to become the refined one. That is why he says, just as like gold being melted and hammered repeatedly to make fine jewelry, these trying moments made him a finer being who is in tune with the grand designer. Because he is in tune with the grand designer, he never got desperate, dispirited, or dejected. Oh, he has got a plan, so I submit to it, that's all. So man's eyes are opened to the transitory nature of the world through the bitter experiences which he gains in the course of life. Jhansi. During his wanderings, Papa would often retreat to a quiet meditative place to be in communion with the divine, like a dewdrop slipping into the shining sea. According to Papa, prayer and meditation are essential to destroy the veil of ignorance that has clouded the soul. In meditation, your mind should think only of God, who resides within you, and not wander about in the midst of passing scenes or the objectives of life. The mind going inward through the practice of prayer and meditation finds the presence of the divine first within and then without everywhere. So apart from Nama and Seva, Dhyana is also equally important. Dhyana is a conscious attempt on our part to feel his presence within. So, as spiritual aspirants or sadhakas, we should give importance to it. Unfortunately, unknowingly, when we come to ashram, we don't give much importance for that because we are one with the various routine, and whenever we are free from routine to our personal this thing, or we spend some time. But in good old days, till 88, when Papa's Samadhi Mandir, that was the only Samadhi Mandir, it was called Homa Mandir, was there. The regular practice was, though nobody instructed anybody to do it, somehow everybody gets kindled, they go there and sit there and try to develop this communion with him in their own way, probably by mental chanting, probably by dwelling on the various teachings. Till 88, that was this way. After that, only vocal chanting is given importance unknowingly. It is important, no doubt. But now here in these words, Papa tries to emphasize the need for the inward journey. In meditation, your mind should think only of God who resides within you and not wander about in the midst of passing scenes of the objective life. The mind going inward through the practice of prayer and meditation finds the presence of the divine first within, then without, everywhere. So this also is very important. Each one has to find out some way. Now we have, of course, this hall. Many people now slowly make use of it. They go to the adjacent room where Puja Swamiji dropped the body, calm and serene. So many people silently come and sit there and go. And this hall is also without any photos. At least in the adjacent room, there are photos of Papa, Mataji, Swamiji, Shivananji Maharaj, Chidanji Maharaj, so many things. To what extent we have been able to go internalize, it gets externalized. So that is why in this particular room there is no such image here, which was exactly like till 88, in Homa Mandir there was no image. So the chances of the mind going outward was less and less. So time has come. Today when we take it up, we are reminded that importance should be given, thrust should be given to inward journey also equally. Himalayas. Papa's Himalayan journey took him to many ancient pilgrim centers, Haridwar, Rishikesh, Kedarnath, Badrinath, the lofty peaks of mountains covered with rolling waves of clouds, and the holy Ganga that flows in all calmness and majesty awaited him. He walked on, losing himself in the divine splendor. He felt like a baby in his mother's lap as he was enveloped by a sense of serenity. For freedom from attachment, the most efficacious means is a recourse from time to time to solitude. The renunciation that is required of the sadhaka is the renunciation principally of attachments existing in the world. So it may not be possible for everybody to take to solitude. So that is why we take these pilgrimages. But unfortunately, during the pilgrimage, to what extent we have been able to dwell on God thought, because travel arrangement, lodging arrangement, food arrangement, all those things play an important part. So to what extent we get accepting the sentimental satisfaction that we have visited. But Papa reminds us here, the purpose of taking such step is freedom from attachment. When we are in our own place, so many things are there to which our attachment comes out. But when we go out, when we are in solitude, especially a solitude like what Papa did, where we see only even on our journey, we find renunciates, people who are free from many of the attachment. There may be some parimiti parigraham may be there, but still, by and large, they are free. So to remind us, really renunciation is not freeing ourselves from our possessions, but attachment to that possession. For that, periodical retreat is recommended. That is why Papa highlights here. For freedom from attachment, the most efficacious means is a recourse from time to solitude. The renunciation that is required of the sadhaka is the renunciation principally of attachments existing in the mind. Mathura, Gokul, and Vrindavan. Papa acknowledged and adored both personal and impersonal vision of God. For him, both these aspects, saguna and nirguna, were complementary, not contrary or contradictory. In fact, the impersonal is manifested through the personal aspect. Truth or God is both personal and impersonal. Truth is personal insofar as it works in the movements of individual life and the world nature, but it is also impersonal, has the external basis or foundation of this pure and spontaneous outflow of life and manifestation. A clear-cut idea about saguna and nirguna. The nirguna aspect, nobody can in one go straight away go to the nirguna aspect, as we said earlier. So we need, because we have got a name and form, so we can go through a name and form easily than through a nameless, formless. Because the moment we close our eyes, so many thoughts rush in. We have been asked to concentrate upon the God aspect. How am I to go within? Many people used to ask Papa, what should be done? So he used to say, bring any form you are comfortable with. And feel that form represents or symbolizes the indwelling reality. So both take place simultaneously. And to others, he says he concentrate on the sound. Because that is also a form, So either through a form or on the sound, when we say Om, Shriram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, we concentrate upon the sound. And this concentration upon the form, concentration upon the sound, directly enables us to free ourselves from the outgoing tendencies of the mind. Here again, why we have not been able to derive the fullest benefit, though we used to go to many temples, we have great devotion for many deities, we find blissful, we find joyous when we hear certain bhajans. Everything is correct. But at the same time, we should know that the form represents the formless. Then only it becomes cosmic. So the impersonal and the personal. Then Raipur. Throughout his journey, Papa made no reservations for either transport or boarding. Wherever he reached, he would look around to see a vacant spot, no matter whether it was nauseating or not, where he can rest for a while. Some of these places were rather inhospitable and offered no comfort to his weary body. Still, he had no reservations about his stay or food. Liberation is possible only through the human body. And to waste this life in pursuit of sense pleasures, instead of trying to reach God, is indeed pitiable. Body is only a vesture, a mask, or a vehicle, impermanent and transitory. Here you will all remember in Quest of God that when the railway police drove everybody, all ticketless travelers, Finally, Papa was chased and Papa found a spot under a tree, yes, the far corner of the platform. And when he laid himself, we had nothing to put it there. So when he laid himself there, he could feel the smell of urine. That means in our language, people were using that place for passing urine. Even then, Papa did not mumble or grumble. And he immediately said, God is making him to do that to know the impermanency or transient nature of the body. Because we are carrying the urine with us. We are carrying the stool, we are carrying the phlegm, we are carrying the sweat. That is why anything comes out of our body, we don't take it back. But we hardly recognize that. When we see outside, when somebody's urine or something is there, we immediately say, no manners, something like that, no? But we hardly recognize that it is the same thing we are carrying it in us. So this body is perishable, this body is full of such things, and so we should not grumble when we see it outside. Something like that, so many interpretations we can have from that. But most touching was, he writes there, this condition taught him further still what a folly it was to make much of this perishable body. It also tended gently, greatly to make him find his true level, which is indeed very, very low. To afford him the benefit of this experience, O Ram, thou alone appeared as the policeman and brought about this circumstance. Here Ramdas, the child of Ram, slept soundly till morning in the loving embrace of that all-powerful being Ram. So one more message it comes. Normally, we get irritated, we become restless, we become upset. But here, he was able to take it as a test. That which is inside has come out, that's all. So he was peaceful. He had a sound sleep, just imagine. So liberation is possible only through the human body, and to waste this life in pursuit of sense pleasures, instead of trying to reach God, is indeed pitiable. Body is only a vesture, a mask, or a vehicle, impermanent and transitory. Ajmer, like an innocent child who would carry an umbrella to a gathering, convened to pray for rain, Papa trusted God unconditionally to take care of him. Even when he was living in a jungle infested with many venomous creatures, he had no fear, for he knew that he was in the ever-protective hands of God. A man without faith is a vacillating creature, vacillating between sorrow and fear, whereas he who possesses faith is the real hero who has conquered weakness and stands firm like a rock in all storms of life. Specifically writes, he went to a cave where there were scorpions, snakes, so many things, and Papa was comfortable with them. Neither they attacked him, nor he was fearing. So that stage, faith in God. Unless these tests are given, how will we know that we have got faith or trust in Him? He was able to understand that. In our case, we immediately become upset. Something for all of us to think deeply on this. While traveling in the western India, Junagadh, Papa managed to visit contrasting terrains, from high and mighty Girnar hills that got 10,000 steps to climb to the seaside town of Porbandar. But wherever he went, his sense of empathy and compassion towards his fellow beings, including animals, was intact and evident. The world we live in is a school in which observation and experience offer us immense possibilities for self-improvement. Nay, the world itself is our Guru or God. Here, in Junagadh, there are about 9,500 steps to have the darshan of the footprints of Lord Dattatreya. It's a wonderful sight. When we go there, we take it, of course, we have faith. There is something pushing us to do it. We go there, we enjoy, we see the scene from there and come back. But Papa did something more, From the low level, you see so many things which are not comfortable for us. But as we keep rising higher and higher, the whole thing looks beautiful. So that is why the world we live in is a school. So every experience he makes us to learn something. Not visiting, not seeing. And for that 9,500 steps, not an ordinary joke. So to reach that state, we have to really subject ourselves to severe austerities. It is not at all a joke to climb these 9,500 granite steps, especially in the summer. It will be very, very hot. And most of the pilgrims, they go not with chapel. And so then we only see at the physical level. Our devotion is there, no doubt. But far from that, Papa says you should know something more than teach, more than that. That means if we have to climb up, we have to scale the heights means that is also a uphill task. Normally in English we say uphill task. But when we reach there, our vision gets expanded and we see only beautiful things, positive things, ecstatic things. Dwarka. Papa had an unwavering clarity and conviction about the path he has chosen. His faith in visionary saints was unshakable. His relationship with his friendly fellow travelers was not burdened by any expectation from his part. In Dwarka, surrender is of one kind. Surrender is of one kind, total only. It means dedication of your entire life to God. There is no such thing as a partial dedication. I-ness is not given up partially. So faith in visionary saints was unshakable. Whenever we are on this path, this is one of the prerequisites for all of us. We must have unshakable faith. Not every 5 minutes we keep on changing our faith. That comes only when our surrender is there. When God has designed that I should take up this yatra, God knows who should guide me in the physical form, and I must have the faith in them. The faith is another word of the surrender. Surrender. And he says here, not one moment or 2 moments, we also get surrender. But that is not the one. The I-ness is not given up partially. Retaining the I-ness, if we say we have got faith, it is not. So that is is a thing on which we have to keep on remembering. That is why we nowadays feel, at the time of repeating universal prayer, we have not been able to live up to what we are telling every day. O Lord of the universe, O Creator, Protector, Destroyer of the world, I come in all humility to thy holy feet and surrender myself entirely to thee. Previously we were not being aware, we were chanting it. But nowadays we know that we have not surrendered, but still we are telling. So that means Mataji chose this universal prayer to be repeated by us, so that one day we will start thinking, I have not surrendered anything, but still I keep on telling that I am entirely I have surrendered. This is not right. So I must do something to bring out the surrender aspect fully. Bombay. During his travels, Papa sometimes met people who were going through tragic and painful situation in life. They were looking for solace and solution. Listening intently to their tales of travels, he would then guide them to the uplifting and reassuring hands of the divine, offering them a safety net in the uncertain world. So you remember at the time of taking sannyas, he took the vow, henceforth the life will be consecrated for the meditation and service of Ram. So whenever God places an individual apparently passing through distress, as a sadhaka, we should try our level best to bring solace and cheer in them. That is why he set up this ashram. That is why Mataji set up this legacy of not only trying to meet the worldly aspect, worldly needs, but also about the spiritual aspects. Not only the spiritual aspects, but also the worldly aspect. That is why both are taken up right from day one. Everything is provided. Every morning you might be seeing so many petitioners come. So whatever is possible, whatever God makes us possible to do that, he, with the wherewithal provided by Him, we try to meet. And wherever they need anything to know about Papa's teachings, Mataji's teachings, about the ideal of the ashram, about the efficacy of the triune path and Amsan Deva, that is why it's being shared. So if we look at a problem raised as to why people suffer, why accidents happen, why people suddenly die or pass through long periods of agony, from the karmic standpoint, we find that suffering and death come to man according to his past actions. So this will give us some cushioning. Instead of blaming others, this particular quotation of Papa gives us something, we are working out our karma. We have to. We look at even the people who have scaled the heights. To them also, this karmic wrangle is not free. So then what about us? So instead of blaming situation or person or objects, we try to understand that we are working out our own karma. Panchavati and Tapovan. Many incidents in his journey convinced him that God's ways are always inscrutable and he alone knows the why and the wherefore. Papa was always content with what he had and never wanted anything more, even when he was repeatedly offered. 27th. Feel always that you are in his hands and therefore always safe. With the weapon of God remembrance, you can dwell in the midst of temptations and remain unaffected. That is why they insist that even when not vocally, the mental chanting should come to stay with us, because that will link us to Him. However much we try, we may all slip into our usual way of thinking. So he says, feel always that you are in His hands and therefore always safe with the weapon of God remembrance. Trimbakeshwar. Many a time Papa was saved miraculously in precarious situations. These events reinforced his faith and trust in his Savior and convinced him that he alone exists. What the caterpillar calls the end of the world is what God calls a butterfly, the evolution. Be calm and serene in all situations. With the thought of God in your mind, be always brave and cheerful. You are truly under His protection. Be calm and serene in all situations. Something for all of us to keep on reminding us. Pandarpur and Bijapur. A journey is an expansion in many ways. It opens new windows to the hitherto unseen world. For Papa, whatever he came across, nature, buildings, people, animals, everything extolled the glory of God. Seeing a cow, Papa was reminded of how God, through his creation, nourishes us without fail. To Papa, cow represents a grand ideal of all that is gentle, pure, self sacrificing, and innocent. To love all is the true bhakti of God. To serve all is the real worship of God. Applied spirituality. Though we may not be able to live up to this, at least we will widen, our love circle. And wherever it is possible and whatever is possible, we try to do our own, but as he provides. And back again to Hubli. During his journey, Papa was fortunate to get the darshan of many Mahatmas who inspired him with the exemplary life they led and universal values they kindled. In Hubli, he had the darshan of Siddharut Swamiji, Siddharut Mat. And he has explained about Siddharut Mat of Swamiji also. Every day when he attended this satsang, something was there for him to get reinforced. Ram had also arranged matters for him. Ramdas listened to. Here he spent about 10 days most happily. In the mornings and evenings, there were reading and exposition of religious texts. Ramdas listened to, nay, drank in the words of wisdom that fell from the lips of the learned sage. Ram had so arranged matters for him that the Upadesh the Swami gave during those days happened to be just what would lead him further in his spiritual progress. At other times, he would wander about in the field behind the mutt and remain mostly at the tomb of Samadhi of the late Kabir Das, the great Muslim saint in that place. Ramdas was clearly able to experience a spiritual atmosphere charged with peace and calmness inside the mutt and Dharmshala, especially at the time of the presence of the great Swami, Sri Siddharudha, who was a great yogi of an advanced stage. He was kind, affable, hospitable, and full of tranquility. I say he said the exemplary life they led and in. Society of saints is the most effective means to awaken the heart to the consciousness of God. The aspirant should approach them in all humility with an attitude to receive their enlightening influence. Importance is given. God arranges. It is not that we go there. God arranges such things. Papa never planned. But God took him to many such places. And the last one was Hubli, when he started from Mangalore. And then finally we are back to Mangalore. Pandava Caves, Kadri, Mangalore. Papa's journey that started from Mangalore came a full circle as he finally reached the Pandava Caves near the town, Mangalore town. To sum up, it was a journey that began in the background of frustration and utter helplessness, ended in the state of peace and serenity in God remembrance. If we go to the first few lines of the In Quest of God, first chapter, and when we come to the last few lines of the last chapter, the message is from stress to serenity. So spirituality is nothing but, spiritual approaches are nothing but, spiritual disciplines are nothing but a journey from stress to serenity, for which what is required, he brings it out in his quotation. The soul which is imprisoned within the toils of individualism. The soul which is imprisoned within the toils of individualism now attains the bliss of perfect freedom. So serenity and peace can be had only when The dominance of me and mine is reduced. The soul which is imprisoned within the toils of individualism with spiritual journey now attain the bliss of perfect freedom. So that is how this Mangalore to Mangalore, anybody can interpret in any way, One method of interpreting it was like this. Because every now and then, instead of going through the whole text and the 198 values, he prompted us to bring out in the form of book something about the places he visited and some words of wisdom that will throw more light on our spiritual journey. That is how it came out in the form of these 40 boards, and that was displayed at the time of centenary celebration. During this next December also, many of you might be knowing that we will have a one-week program here from 23rd December to 31st. We will have 7 days of Akhanda Ramnam, 23rd to 29th, and 31st as usual we will have here Satsang and Ramnam, daytime Ramnam, and night we will have up to 12 o'clock we used to have Ramnam. So in this period also we intend to display these boards so that we are reminded of the journey which Papa undertook, which was in Vyavaharic language, which was the instrumental cause for setting up this Anandashram, which drew us for our own benefit. So all these things will be touched and kindled by going through these boards. Mangalore to Mangalore, Mangalore to Mangalore, stress to serenity, stress to serenity. So let us all try to remember this as much as we can. Only by repeatedly hammering all these things, something will go inside. Otherwise, we will be carried away by our own preoccupations at the outer level. May He who has facilitated all these things for us also trigger our spiritual journey so that we eke out the maximum benefit of what all He has provided Him. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om